In this video, I will show you guys how to write a program that gives you a factorial of whatever number that you give to it. So basically, a factorial is a product of an integer and all the integers below it. So for example, let's say we're looking for a factorial of a 5. Let me just write this down. 5 factorial. 5 factorial is equals to 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So basically, that is how you get, sorry, the 1 is supposed to be a 1. Cool. So this is basically how you get the factorial of a certain number. You multiply that number by all the values that are below it until you get to a 1. So let's get to the program writing. So in this program, we'll simply start by creating a variable x, which will store that number, the one that we'll use to calculate its factorial. And then we'll use cin in order to write to the variable, which is x in our case. Okay, fine. And then we'll also use a for loop in order for us to get the numbers that are below that number, like the main number that we'll be using. So we'll say int I, creating a variable which is I, and then equating it to x. And then we say while, then we say while, I is greater than 1, continue like decrementing I. So basically we created a variable I here again within our for loop. And then we're saying that as long as I is greater than 1, continue decrementing I. Now let's go to the body of our for loop. So in the body of our for loop, okay, I forgot to do something here. We should create a factorial variable, which will also be an integer. We'll just name it fact, short for factorial, then equate it equals to 1. We'll see why I did that exactly just now. So fact is equals to fact multiplied by I. And then just down here is where I'll see out what the fact. Okay. Cool. Now let me just explain this code and what it does. So basically we have an integer x whereby it's a variable that stores the number that we want to calculate its factorial. So we're equating this variable that we created I to our x. Let's say our x in this case is a 3. And then we say while I is greater than 1, decrement I. So initially our fact is equals to 1 multiplied by what? By our I. And our I initially has the value of this x here, which I said will be a 3 in this video. Okay, fine. So now we have 1 multiplied by a 3. 1 multiplied by a 3 is still a 3. Then that value is stored in this fact. And then again, since that 3 is greater than 1, we come back here, we decrement that 3 to a 2. Then we come here, fact, we know it's a 3, multiplied by I, which is a 2, and then that gives us a what? A 6. So this fact is now equal to a 6. And then we come again, since we know that our I is still greater than 1, which is a 2, we decrement it again to get a 1. And then we get a 6 multiplied by what? By 1, which gives us a 6. And therefore, we have calculated the factorial of a 3, and it is equals to 6. That is how this for loop runs, basically. The reason that I made this fact equal to a 1 is because if this fact was equals to a 0, anything multiplied by 0 remains a 0. So our final answer was going to be a 0 in this case, of which we do not want that. Fine. Let's run the code and see exactly what we get. Okay, fine. Here is where we have to include, we have to insert the value that we want to be stored inside x. So we'll just look for the factorial of a 5. See, we get a 120, and 120 is the 5 factorial. You can confirm that using your calculator. Let's just use another number again. Let's run the code again. in order to get another factorial. Let's just try the factorial of a of a 4. The factorial of 4 is equal to a 24, and it is correct again. Let's just try a factorial of a very big number so that you can see what happens. The factorial of, for example, a 700. And we're getting a 0. The reason why we're getting a 0 is that the factorial of a 700 has about like 1,690 digits, which like is a very long number. It could actually fill the screen here. And so since I used the data type integer for my fact, which is very small and it cannot accommodate such a very big number, at least if maybe I could have used a long int, maybe, I'm not sure about that, but then it could have sort of accommodated the very big number, which is the factorial of a 7. But then in this case, actually, you can actually try that yourself. Yeah, try using a long int here as the data type and try getting the factorial of a 7. Fine. Another thing that I wanted to do here in this program is make this a function. We see that it's inside the int main, and so I just need to make it a function so that you guys can actually see how functions are made. I think this would be a good example. So this function will have a return type int, since you know that when you're writing a function, you start by the return type, and then you have the variables that your function will use. In this case, it will be x. This function will be taking in a variable x, a value which will be stored in the variable x. And then the body of our function will simply be this for loop that we have here. We cut it and then we paste it here. Control V. Great. And then, okay, let me just put this in the curly braces because it's a function. Cool. Now it's within the curly braces. This is the body of our function. And then what else do we have to take? This factorial, actually, yeah, we just have to take this and then put it here again on top of our function. So it's more like we just created this inside our function, this variable fact, we equated it to 1 inside our function. And then since now this is a function, instead of cout, our function has a return type, which is an integer. So we can simply just say return fact, Yeah, we can simply just say return the fact. Okay, cool. Now let's just call our function. Okay, let me just use another value here. Let me just use y instead, because it could be any value that I want. It doesn't have to be the same value that I use in my function. Sorry, I said a y. Good. And so now that I've returned fact, okay, let me see if there's anything missing. So this is basically our function. It takes the value x and then does something to it. Let me just try making my code a bit beautiful than it actually is. Then here again, it will return the factorial. Amazing, amazing. And then what's the name for? Oh, I forgot the name. I forgot. Oh, this is very important. I forgot the name of the factorial. I forgot the name of the function. So the name of the function will be a factorial. So now I come here inside my int main, I call the function. The function is factorial, as you can see, it showed. Then I give whatever value x to it. So I'm giving it y, it should be capital letter Y, this value that I will see in. Let's see if I get the same thing. Let me just check if I didn't make any mistake here. Factorial is the name of the function. It takes a variable int. And then this is basically the body. It makes this and then Okay, cool. From where I'm standing, I don't see any mistake here. And then down there, there's the return zero, which is fine. Okay, let's run the code and see what we get. Hopefully, we won't be getting any errors here. Okay, fine. Let's just try 5. It's not giving anything back. Oh, okay. I know exactly what I forgot. We forgot to see out. Yes, we did call our function, but we didn't see out because the function simply returns the fact, but it does not see out it. So we just see out at it, and let's see. We're looking for the value, the factorial of a 5, we get a 120. So our function works perfectly. We just have the body here. Actually, you know exactly what everything does here. So that's exactly how you build functions, and this is how you call functions. Believe this was a very good example to actually show how a function works. You have the return type of the function, which is an integer. Then you have the name of the function, the variables that will be taken by our function. Then this is the body of the function, what the function does. And at the end here, it returns the value that is stored inside our fact variable. Then this is how you call it. And then y is simply in our int main. In our int main is whereby we actually set y equals to a certain value using our cin, whichever value that we prefer. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if this video was useful to you, and hopefully you'd get to see more videos like this. Bye.